Title: The Cursed Gambler. Year: 101,666,666. Era: Bloodstone Age. Author: Jeremy Levan and Rise of the Zodiac. Series 2025. Chapter 1. In the war-torn province of Velra, the coin was God. Mercy had no exchange rate. Kindness was a gamble no one could afford. The cursed gambler knew this well. He had wagered his soul more than once for a handful of rice or an extra breath between battles. His debt wasn't just gold, it was grief. He wore a red mask to hide the shame. Until the day he stumbled upon a ruined monastery turned hospice. There, the masked one waited, not with judgment, but with tea. "You can't save others if you don't first save yourself," she said, handing him a chipped cup. It shook in his hand. Chapter 2. He stayed, not for redemption, for silence. And in that silence, he learned how to bind wounds, cook lentils, and listen without schemes. Each act of kindness he received etched a scar into his shame, and slowly it softened. He began to help, not to atone, but to contribute. The masked one taught him no philosophy, no creed, only presence. And when soldiers came, demanding tribute, the gambler offered himself in place of the sick. They laughed, then paused, because none of the villagers cowered. Chapter 3. The soldiers left empty-handed. The gambler remained maskless. Velrun healed slowly, its wounds layered and deep. But in its center, beside the spring where the monastery once stood, they built a small stone bench. On it, carved in simple script: "You can't save others if you don't first save yourself." Now the gambler trains others not in chance, but in choice. And the masked one, she smiles from the doorway, knowing her gamble paid off. Title: The Echo of Creation. Year: 101,538,461.4. Era: Bloodstone Age. Author: Jeremy Levan and Rise of the Zodiac. Series 2025. Chapter 1. The city of Lethanol prized progress above all. Its towers shimmered with innovation. Its streets pulsed with invention, but its foundations were cracked from the inside. Mistakes were painted over, roots buried beneath accolades. The Echo of Creation, once a revered architect, had helped design the city's grand library, but when a beam collapsed and killed 3 workers, no one took responsibility. She did, not because it was her fault, because someone had to. Only through the currency of perseverance does a fleeting victory gain permanence. She wrote in her resignation. The scholar of silence found a letter nailed to the oak in the city center. He published it. Chapter 2. The city dismissed her as unstable. The scholar called her essential. Together, they began collecting unspoken truths, mismanaged projects, silenced whistleblowers, quiet heroisms. They printed a simple paper, the Ledger of Accountability. At first, few read it, and one worker found a name they recognized, then another, and slowly the city listened. Officials responded. Some resigned, some reformed. Chapter 3. Now, a section of the city center is called the Resonant Hall. Its walls are mirrors, its floors engraved with names of both failings and forgivings, and on the arch above the entry, only through the currency of perseverance, as a fleeting victory gained permanence. The Echo of Creation builds again, not towers, but trust, and the scholar of silence, still silent, still watching. Title: The Sleepless Midwife. Year: 101,442,307.1. Era: Age of Tempests. Author: Jeremy Levan and Rise of the Zodiac. Series 2025. Chapter 1. In the valley of Corindel, gold ran beneath the soil like forgotten sunlight. The town of it gleamed homes of silver lattices, plazas of polished stone. Merchants thrived. Poets were rare. The sleepless midwife once served the rich with silence and silk gloves. Her name was whispered in noble houses revered, but never truly known. She caught lives, not dreams, and she lost one. Child born cold beneath chandeliers of sapphire. The mother wept alone. The father returned to his feast. The hardest lessons carved the deepest truths into your bones, she wrote in her journal that night. Then she walked into the lowlands. Chapter 2. She found shacks made of tin and song, where laughter fed more than bread. Here, the oath left open waited an old healer who had once been her teacher. Exiled for speaking compassion in courtrooms, they began again, with bare hands, with broken instruments, with names remembered, not recorded. She stopped counting gold, started counting stories. When a noble's child grew sick, they brought her to the midwife, not the palace physician. She healed, but charged nothing. The town stirred. Chapter 3. Now in the lowlands, a new hall stands built of wood, warmed by stories. The wall holds a single inscription. The hardest lessons carve the deepest truths into your bones. The sleepless midwife still walks barefoot, still refuses gold, still hears the cries of the firstborn and the forgotten, and beside her, always the oath left open, humming lullabies to silence. Title: The Storm Herald. Year: 101,282,051.2. Era: Bloodstone Age. Author: Jeremy Levan. Rise of the Zodiac Series 2025. Chapter 1. The coast of Iskarith knew the shape of storms, how they came, how they ruined, how they left, but no one spoke of the one who called them. The Storm Herald had once been a poet, known for verses that could still the heart of grief. But when her beloved vanished at sea, she took to the cliffs with a voice no longer tender. Her cries called lightning, her sorrow shifted tides. The one who waits, a silent lighthouse keeper, watched her every dusk, waiting for the storm that would never break her. You cannot outrun the echo that is your name spoken in truth, he once whispered to the wind. It carried. Chapter 2. Villagers blamed her. She did not deny it. Instead, she spoke to the waves. The one who waits left a lantern beside her rock each night. One evening, she lit it herself and wept. The next morning, the tide returned her beloved's boat empty, except for a scrap of poetry inked in rust. They read it aloud together. The sea stilled. She stopped calling storms, started calling names. One by one, villagers came seeking not her power, but her story. She offered them both. Chapter 3. Now, beside the cliff stands a beacon not for ships, but for hearts weathering grief. Couples marry beside it. Wanderers rest beneath it, and on its stone foundation you cannot outrun the echo that is your name spoken in truth. The storm herald no longer cries to the sea. She listens and waits beside the one who always did. Title: The one beneath all names. Year: 101,217,948.2. Era: Age of Tempests. Author: Jeremy Levan. And Rise of the Zodiac Series 2025. Chapter 1. In the orbital settlement of Kalux Prime, names were everything. They were ranked, indexed, traded like currencies. Every citizen wore theirs like armor, scanned, spoken, sacred. The one beneath all names did not. They walked the lower rings in silence, their ID long erased, their designation forgotten or surrendered. Legends claimed they once cracked a code the Directorate had spent decades sealing. They claimed nothing. They simply built new tech, new systems, no signatures. A name unspoken was the only one who understood, her neural grasp resonating with frequencies beyond standard ops. The edge you fear is not your end, she told her students. It's the threshold of your becoming. Chapter 2. The Directorate dismissed her teachings. They tried to arrest the one. Their scanners failed. The systems changed too fast. The Forgotten Zones grew filled with rogue engineers, discarded thinkers. Children denied entry to the naming ceremonies. They built not for tradition, but for function. Not for legacy, but for survival. Innovation bloomed where recognition died. Chapter 3. Today, the heart of Kalux is powered by tech no council approved, and no one knows who wrote it. But on the mainframe's deepest node is a phrase etched in photon. The edge you fear is not your end, it's the threshold of your becoming. The one beneath all names, still unseen, still unspoken, but in every system, they are present. Idol. The Feather Oath. Year: 101,025,640.9. Era: Bloodstone Age. Author: Jeremy Levan. And Rise of the Zodiac Series 2025. Chapter 1. Chronopolis was a marvel. Its towers spun with the rhythm of celestial time, powered by gears so precise they predicted eclipses, tides, and birth rates. But its focus was always forward, never inward, never downward. Children walked in shadows cast by the mechanisms meant to serve them. Few noticed, fewer cared. The Feathered Oath had once been a guardian of time, sworn to protect the city's harmony. But when she saw children denied food for the sake of fuel, she cast off her armor. The Sandwalker, a silent vigilante from the low districts, met her at the edge of the maintenance tunnels. Even kings are bound by the clock they thought they controlled, he said. Chapter 2. Together, they began rerouting power-stealing minutes from luxury to light the slums. The gears shuddered. The elite panicked. They left symbols in the sky, birds drawn in starlight ink, feathers sewn into pockets. One child, once mute, began to sing by the hum of new heat. The Oath and the Sandwalker called this justice. The rulers called it treason. They tried to stop time, but time fought back. Chapter 3. The city now lives by two clocks, one mechanical, one human. In the plaza, where gears once spun uninterrupted, a feather floats in glass above a pedestal of sand. At its base, the inscription reads, "Even kings are bound by the clock they thought they controlled." A Feathered Oath still walks the rooftop. The Sandwalker still guards the tunnels. And the children, they run both clocks now. Title: The Oath Breaker Turned. Savior. Year: 100,993,589.2. Era: Age of Tempests. Author: Jeremy Levan, Rise of the Zodiac Series 2025. Chapter 1. The peaks of Galbarath were said to grant visions to those who reached the summit. Many had climbed, few had returned. None had spoken of what they saw. The Oathbreaker turned. Savior once swore an allegiance to the Iron Crusade, an order of conquest masked as peace. But when she saw the blood, they wrote their treaties in. She climbed the mountain to renounce her name. She was never the same. The flame of identity, a wandering philosopher whose face changed in every city, waited for her at the base camp. The summit is silent, he said, but the echoes of your climb never fade. She nodded, and climbed again. Chapter 2. This time, she brought others, not warriors, widows, outcasts, children who've seen fire but never snow. They stumbled, they bled, they wept, but none turned back. Each carried a journal to record the journey, not the destination. One child, orphaned by war, wrote, "Falling helped me see the trail I missed." Another etched, "My fear taught me where not to step again." Chapter 3. They built a sanctuary not at the summit, but midway, where most had fallen. It became a school, not of conquest, but of failure, its max hand drawn, its wisdom earned. At its gate, the summit is silent, but the echoes of your climb never fade. The Oathbreaker turned. Savior teaches with the limp. The flame of identity lights the hearth each dawn, and the mountain watches them in quiet approval. Title: The One Beneath All Names. Year: 100,769,230.7. Era: Bloodstone Age. Author: Jeremy Levan, Rise of the Zodiac Series 2025. Chapter 1. The village of Penland was quiet not from peace, but from resignation. Its council ruled through tradition, its decisions written on bark, and its public square used only for ceremonies no one remembered the origins of. The One Beneath All Names lived on the edge of Penland, tending herbs and listening to wine. They were born without a spoken name, given only silence by a mother who believed in voices found, not forced. Many thought them odd. Only a few came to them in times of need. The blade with the past, a retired soldier haunted by choices no one dared ask about, was one of those few. Strength flowers best in the soft soil of vulnerability, they once told him as he sobbed. He believed them. Chapter 2. One day, the council made a decree. No child without a name could enter the village school. The One Beneath All Names didn't argue. They gathered the children and taught them beneath the old willow. There were no desks, only questions, no roll call, only stories. The blade returned to teach as well, bringing lessons carved in battle, softened by regret. More children came, then elders. Then the silence broke. Voices bloomed. Chapter 3. When the council came to close the gathering, they found it empty. The villagers had moved the meeting to the main square on their own, and every voice spoke, not loud, but honest. Now a stone ring marks the center of Penland, open to all. There is no speaker's platform, only a single line etched into its base. Strength flowers best in the soft soil of vulnerability, and within the petals of every new voice, society reshapes itself. Title: The One Who Drinks Shadow. Year: 100,769,230.3. Era: Age of Tempests. Author: Jeremy Levan, Rise of the Zodiac Series 2025. Chapter 1. The city of Belgard was fire, wrought and fear-fed, where magic spiraled, uncontrolled through bloodlines fractured by time. When the veil cracked, and the wild heath flooded the streets, all fled except one. The One Who Drinks Shadow had no lineage, no crest, no school. But she walked into the blaze, barehanded, palm-eyed. The strongest walk through fire not for glory, she said once, but because no one else would. The Bone Mender, a forest exile who stitched wounds with runes and marrow, met her beyond the shattered gate. They nodded, and began the rescue. Chapter 2. Chaos ruled the inner city. Spells fractured into echoes. Walls screamed. Children floated untethered. She did not raise her voice. She reached. She drank the wild ether into herself, not to consume it, but to ground it. The Bone Mender followed, sealing wounds with threads of stability. Together, they became rumor. People returned. Streets calmed. A new order arose, not of control, but of harmony with chaos. Chapter 3. In the heart of Velgard now stands a garden grown over the scorched plaza where she knelt. At its edge, the strongest walk through fire not for glory, but because no one else would. The One Who Drinks Shadow lives in legend. The Bone Mender teaches quietly, beside herbs that bloom the ash, and the city breathes, finally in peace. Title: The Watcher from the Morrow. Year: 100,544,871.4. Era: Age of Tempests. Author: Jeremy Levan, and Rise of the Zodiac Series 2025. Chapter 1. In the twilight citadel of Velron, where time shimmered like a veil and prophecy was currency, Leadership belonged to those who saw ahead literally. The watcher from the morrow was born without the sight, an anomaly, a disappointment. She lived quietly beneath the tower of seeing, tending gardens no one believed would grow until the drought, until the seer's visions failed, and her roses bloomed. The silent blade, a masked guardian of the council, came to her at dawn. "Why didn't you come forward?" he asked. "What you fear most," she whispered, "waits patiently to become your strength." After 2, she taught others to grow food, patience, skill. She saw not the future, but potential. The council laughed, until their walls cracked, until her students healed the land, until the silent blade removed his mask before the assembly and named her his teacher. He renounced his title. She never accepted one, but the people followed. Chapter 3. Now, where the tower of seeing once cast shadows, a garden grows. It needs no vision, only care. Carved into the fountain at its center, what you fear most waits patiently to become your strength. The watcher walks its paths daily. The silent blade tends the night bloom, and every morning new leaders rise not because they are seen, but because they chose to see. Title: The Astrocartographer. Year: 100,512,820.5. Era: Bloodstone Age. Author: Jeremy Levan, and Rise of the Zodiac, Series 2025. Chapter 1. The city of Varnath prided itself on maps of its streets, maps of its past, maps of its people's future choices as predicted by the high scribes. Destiny was charted, tracked, and tattooed. Comfort was king. Deviation was disease. The astral cartographer had once been their golden mind, mapping stars to decisions, laying out perfect paths for the elite to follow, until one chart led to the ruin of an entire district. He begged to recalibrate. They refused. He vanished instead. Years later, when the plague of the possible struck a mental virus of too many choices, he returned, cloaked and changed. "You will not find home," he said, "until comfort no longer holds you hostage." Chapter 2. He mapped chaos. Minds danced like rivers without banks. His new maps offered no certainty, only possibility. The city panicked, but the sick began to heal. When allowed to choose, truly choose, the afflicted found focus. The cartographer teamed with a mysterious figure known as the Plague of the Possible, a poet doctor who prescribed questions rather than cures. Together, they opened an archive with blank scrolls. Visitors came trembling, left grounded. Chapter 3. The Council of Precision declared war, but Varnath's people burned their old maps. They wanted paths, not prisons. In the city center now lies a sundial with no numbers, only a mirror where the Namen should be. At its edge, etched in starlight script, "You will not find home until comfort no longer holds you hostage." The astral cartographer walked still, not with maps, but with mirrors, and every reflection holds a new route home. Title: The Silent Blade. Here: 100,320,512.5. Era: Age of Tempests. Author: Jeremy Levan, and Rise of the Zodiac, Series 2025. Chapter 1. The colony ship Veritas Roman 9 floated in the silence between systems, its engine cores failing, its crew fracturing. Protocol demanded hierarchy. Survival demanded unity. The silent blade had once been the vessel's enforcer, a figure of justice, feared and obeyed. But as systems collapsed, fear lost its grip. She removed her helm, refused her orders, sat beside the refugees in the unlit hold. "One step can break a pattern," she whispered to a grieving child, "or start a prophecy." The flame bearer, the ship's smith-keeper, heard those words and began recording. Chapter 2. Food grew scarce. Actions splintered. The command council offered evacuation to the elite. The blade declined. She stayed behind to power the systems manually, sharing rations with those left to perish. Others followed. Engineers, once silent, worked side by side with stewards. Refugees taught navigators how to mend thermal seams with fabric scraps. In the dark, they found each other, and the ship began to breathe again. Chapter 3. When Veritas Roman 9 reached the terror-bound orbit of Ganaira, it was not on fuel. It was on faith, etched into the ship's inner hull near the fusion cradle. One step can break a pattern or start a prophecy. The silent blade disappeared into the forests of Ganaira. The flamer writes her story for every shipbound child, and each one now takes their first step with care. Title: The One Who Eats the Map. Year: 100,256,410.2. Era: Bloodstone Age. Author: Jeremy Levan, and Rise of the Zodiac, Series 2025. Chapter 1. In the walled city of Ordain, no one made choices. Not because they couldn't, but because they didn't dare. Central AI, the navigator, plotted every citizen's path based on 1,000 variables, an illusion of protection. Jobs, marriages, meals decided, Disobedience was treason. The one who eats the map was born as a statistical error, an anomaly in the system's calculations. She saw two futures in every prediction. The navigator labeled her unstable. She vanished at 15 and reappeared at 25 with a bag full of burning mat fragments and a name that made officials tremble. The truth that shakes your foundations, she said, is often the one that frees you. Chapter 2. She began to teach people how to navigate by instinct. No maps, no permissions. She tattooed questions across alley walls. What choice was stolen from you today? The one who waits. A rebel coder sentenced to house silence. Had the navigator's voice feeds, replacing daily orders with readings of these questions. People panicked, then paused, then responded. Small rebellions bloomed. Meals skipped, pests ignored, jobs declined, and instead of chaos, ordain breathed. Chapter 3. When the navigator collapsed. The city did not. They gathered in the central plaza mapless, leaderless, waiting for guidance. None came, so they made it. Now, a compass made of scrap and bone hangs above Bourdain's council circle. Its 4 cardinal directions read: listen, speak, choose, heal, and at its base, the truth that shakes your foundations is often the one that frees you. The one who beats the map never returned to power. She didn't need to. She had given it away. Title: The Child of the Void. Year: 100,096,153.5. Era: Age of Tempests. Author: Jeremy Levan, Rise of the Zodiac Series, 2025. Chapter 1. The outposts of Nyx were built where light refused to linger. Few dared venture that far beyond the grid. The weak were left behind, forgotten, collateral, until the Child of the Void came, not born of flesh, but found in the wreckage of a fallen cruiser. She spoke little, and glowed faintly in the dark. The elders called her a ghost, the scavengers called her luck. But the spirit midwife saw something else. To shine, she told the council, is to risk being seen and misfreed. The child nodded once and vanished into the night. Chapter 2. She returned days later with the severed hand of a predator drone, its warning beacon blinking, defense disabled. Then came food caches from ruined bunkers. Then came a trail safe from storm clusters. And then she brought others, the limping, the broken, the quiet. She made room, and the midwife helped her teach. Chapter 3. Now, in the deepest reaches of Nyx, the outposts glow not from solar beacons, but from the safety she created, etched into the arch above the gathering dome. The shine is to risk being seen and misread. The Child of the Void remains unnamed. The spirit midwife documents each act of defense as if it were a birth, and society, by growing around the weak, finds its true strength.